Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale Rolls-Royce Phantom made by Chezhi Models, and that's CHE-ZHI. I got this model from Amazon for around $41 in total, including shipping and everything. And currently, this seems to be the cheapest 1/18 or almost 1/18 scale, and I'll explain that more later, Rolls-Royce Phantom that you can buy. Chezhi makes this particular model in several different colors. I went with the black and silver that you see here with kind of the orange-brown sort of interior. Chezhi also makes this same model in all black where you don't have the silver portion and the whole car is black. There's also a dark gray and white version and a light blue and white version as well. And other model manufacturers kind of similar to Chezhi make Rolls-Royce Phantom models that are similar to this one. And this model is quite unique in the sense that in addition to being a very affordable 1/18 scale Rolls-Royce model, is that it has a bunch of features such as lights and sound and a pullback motor, which you really don't see in larger scale models in general. I did do a video where I bought a 1/24 scale Lexus model from a different manufacturer called Jinglifeng. That was kind of a similar concept where it was an affordable, big-scale Lexus model that had many different features, such as all-opening doors, different light and sound functions, and a pullback motor. So all of that kind of drew my interest into getting this model, which I then, of course, did. You can find this model elsewhere on eBay as well, and other sites too. But Amazon, I think, has the best price. And these go for anywhere between $40 and $80. I definitely would not pay more than maybe like $50-some for this model. That being said, most of the other big scale Rolls-Royce Phantoms you're going to see are either going to be resin models that are hundreds of dollars or will have, all opening features, all the different bells and whistles, but they're also several $100s. Kyosho and several other brands kind of come to mind when you think about that. But yeah, I was really excited to find this particular model. I was kind of casually browsing for other, alloy die-cast pullback models, seeing how cool that Lexus was that I got. And this one came up in my search results. So in terms of, a unique kind of model, this definitely hits the spot. But in terms of a well-detailed replica, this really does not meet the same marks that you would see for a true kind of upper-end model. And I'll kind of get into those different details throughout the video here. But I think the biggest thing to talk about first is definitely the scale of the model. Although it's listed as being 1/18 scale, it's definitely not quite 1/18 scale. This is definitely, I would say, closer to maybe 1/20th scale. I know for sure it's not 1/24th scale, because I have other 1/24th scale cars that would be about as big as this vehicle in real life. And they're smaller than this, like noticeably when you put them kind of next to it and everything. And worth mentioning, Chezhi also makes the same model in 1/32nd scale and 1/24th scale, both of which have less details but are pretty much identical in terms of the colors that they're offered and the features that they include. So I just wanted to say that too. But I'm going to show you in this next segment why this definitely is not 1/18 scale, and you can kind of be the judge of that once I show this portion next. And to get a better sense of how this 1/18 scale Rolls-Royce Phantom is really not 1/18 scale, here's the model next to a 1/18 scale 2019 Honda Civic model. As you can see, the Civic is much wider in the front than the Phantom is. And if these cars were real, the Phantom would be both much longer and much wider than the Civic. This Phantom model is based off a 2018 to present Phantom, which is still currently being made in real life. I forgot to mention that in the beginning of the video. So, despite the fact that it's not truly 1/18 scale, it does look good when you put it next to 1/18 scale models. So, if you can see past that, I think it is nice that this company is making a big scale Phantom for an affordable price. So, as you saw there, the scale of the model is definitely off, although I would say it's not off to the point where if you put this up on the shelf with other big scale models, it would look glaringly obvious that it's off scale. But keep in mind that if you do put it next to certain 1/18 scale models, you're going to kind of see the difference. But that being said, this is an inexpensive 1/18 scale Rolls-Royce model. So in terms of details, I think Shazy did an okay job at best. But in terms of features, they, I think, did a really amazing job. So I'm going to go ahead and get into kind of the different details and features of the model. I'm going to kind of start with going over the different kind of details. And then I'll get into what different features the model has. So there's the opening features as well as the lights and the sound functions. So we'll start up here with the front. Shazy, I would say, did a good job in general with the overall look and shape of their 1/18 scale Rolls-Royce Phantom model, or 1/20th. I keep saying 1/18 because that's what they advertise it as, so I'm just going to go with that. But again, I think they did do a good job in general with the look and shape of the Rolls-Royce Phantom. This is undoubtedly a model of a Rolls-Royce Phantom. You just see like the silhouette and everything, the classic kind of two-tone finish, those big pinstripes going down the whole length of the car. They just did a great job, I think, in that sense. I would say that the car is maybe a little bit too narrow when you look at it from this direction. It should be maybe a little bit wider, but in terms of length, it definitely looks like the real-life Phantom. This is not based off the extended wheelbase Phantom, which is even longer and larger than the regular Phantom. Both do have the extended rear doors that you see here, although I believe for the EWB it has even lengthier rear doors. But Shazy, I think, did a decent job in that sense. Definitely off scale. That kind of, takes into account the size and shape of the model. But aside from that, in terms of just the overall look of the car, I think Shazy did an excellent job in that sense for the price that they're charging for the model. In the front here, you will see that they did do a good job with the headlights, which do work, and I will show you that later. The headlights do fit nice and flush with the metal body, as you see right here. And of course, they have LEDs in them because, again, these actually do function as headlights on the model, so that's very cool. The center grille, I think Shazy did a great job with that. I think the chrome quality is surprisingly good for a cheaper model, and you do have that Rolls-Royce badge in the center there as well. Now, the grille slats are not perforated. They're not, like, really see-through. It looks like they are because what they do is they actually paint the rear portion of the grille black, and they put the slats in front of it. Or I think, actually, they did the whole thing black, and they just painted the slats chrome. So it looks like it's an actual see-through grille, but it's not a see-through grille. But I think they did a good job, nonetheless, of kind of making it look like that it is a see-through grille. You have the Spirit of Hextasy up here, which does actually fold down into the engine bay, just like the real one would. And I'll kind of show that later once I open up the hood. And it is clear because this does light up, which is not proper to the real vehicle. Unfortunately, the real vehicle, it's made out of real silver. Like, they hand carve these things and put them on Rolls-Royce Phantoms, Ghosts, and all the other different Rolls-Royce cars that they make in real life. But it does not light up. I'm sure a customer, knowing how much they're paying for these cars, could, commission them to make a light up, hood ornament. But in general, they don't light up. They're made out of silver. But it's still cool that Shazy included that as kind of an additional, cool feature there. The paint quality on the model in general, I would say, is fairly well done. You have a glossy finish for the black paint, and then you have a slightly more matte finish for the metallic silver portion. But I do like how you have different paint finishes going on. That would be true to the real car. You could pretty much order these cars in real life in any color that you please, but a lot of them that I've seen pictures of do have these amazing looking two-tone finishes. And I think the black and silver just works so great with this particular car. The pinstripes are decently done, but there is some kind of rubbing off back here, as you see in that spot. But it is a cheap model, so you're going to see some, minor defects like that, but not a big deal. The side mirrors do fold in and out, but they're very, very loose, so I'd be very careful with them. I don't even like to move them because they just seem so loose. I mean, like, look at that. It's like wiggling like a loose tooth or something. So not great, but at least they function as foldable side mirrors. Speaking of side, you do get full side windows on the model as well that are all trimmed off in this chrome. The chrome does look a bit cheap as far as the window trims go, but at least they do it in chrome and don't paint it like the rest of the body. And they do have these separately cast chrome pieces for the door handles as well, which look very well done. And then you do have this Rolls-Royce badge on both fenders, which is actually a separately cast plastic piece, which looks very well done. They very well could have just painted that whole thing on there, but instead they made it as a separately cast plastic piece, which is what you would see on the real vehicle as well. The wheels are decently done, kind of on the slightly cheap looking side, but at least, you know, they're done as kind of typical wheels that you would see for a Rolls-Royce Phantom. A little bit too heavy on the chrome, I think, and I think the centers are a little bit too large, but from a distance, they do look quite well done. The model does have full suspension as well, and that's clicking because this actually triggers a noise when you turn the sounds on, and I'll show all of that in the latter portion of the video. And you do have steering as well. The steering does not work too well, and if you look underneath, that is straight out of an RC car. So that's like the glaringly toyish looking aspect of the model. And this model is meant to be more of a toy than a model. I just want to kind of put that out there too. While the details are good for what the model is, it's primarily meant to be a toy. And you'll kind of see that once I show all the different features in the latter portion of the video. In addition, this is a pullback model, which is shocking to me. You just pull it back, then let it go, like so. Get it from this angle too. Pull it back, then there you have it. It actually is pretty quick on carpeting too. So that's really cool, like by itself, that this is a pullback model, because most times when you see pullback cars, you think like, oh, like 1/36 scale, you know, like CVS Kinsmart cars, not big scale models. So that is super cool that this exists, I think, in general. In terms of the back, they do a nice job with these taillights, which also function. Then you have that nice chrome frame above the license plate where you have the little Rolls-Royce badge on there as well. Next, we'll take a look at the different features that the model has. So in terms of opening features, you do have an opening rear trunk, which opens up like so. And this is actually the tool that you can use to open up the doors. It's actually a suction cup tool. Instead of a traditional kind of door opener pick that most model manufacturers include with models that have side windows, this one has a suction cup thing where you just push it in place on the door and then pull it open. And I'll get into that a little bit later. In terms of the trunk detailing, not really a whole lot to see in here. The trunk on the real car definitely does not just stop right there. It would go like way, way far back, but they just kind of have it end there. I'm guessing to accommodate the pullback motor or something. So kind of toyish in that sense, but you're not really going to be looking in the trunk too much in the first place. That's really all there is to a seat back there. And of course, you also have an opening hood as well. There's a button underneath. You just kind of have to feel for it. And then you push up the hood like that. The ornament does fold back into the hood, which I'll show you right now. There's the space for it. And you just fold it like that. Very cool. The engine is just one flat plastic piece. This definitely looks very toyish, but at least they do put the V12 inscription there, and there is some silver going on. But aside from that, very basic and whatnot, but I guess they kind of had to cut costs for the different features that they have on the model. But at least they have the opening hood and the engine to begin with, I suppose, but not really a whole lot to talk about aside from that. We'll flip this logo back up. You have to be kind of careful with it. It does seem like it's a little bit fragile. We'll close up the hood. And of course, you do have all 4 opening doors, but before I show you that, you do have an opening gas cap on this side back here, which opens up like that. Super cool. Nice addition there. And then you also have all 4 opening doors. So for this tool, the suction cup thing, you just kind of push it in place like that, very gently. You don't even have to push it too hard. And then pull open the doors like that. And this one, you can just use your finger to open up. These are spring-loaded doors, so you have to kind of be careful when opening and closing them because they might snap shut or snap open in the case of what that back door just did. We'll open up the other side too. You can kind of see all 4 doors open at once. Same thing, just use the suction cup and pull like that. I'll do it to this door too. And then there you have it. In terms of the interior detailing, there really is not a whole lot. It does look quite toyish, but that being said, you actually do get full carpeting, which is a very odd touch, but they still included that. And you also have a slide opening moonroof as well, as you see right here. That's just very cool. And then on the back doors, you do have the umbrellas that you would get if this were the real car. You just pull them out like this, and there you go. Really cool. But that's where it kind of ends in terms of cool stuff on the interior, because the detailing really is not the best. The seats look way too orange, although that being said, I kind of like the orange paired up with this black and silver car. They're definitely too shiny and I think too thick in some spots. You do actually have an opening armrest in the front here, like that. They at least do have that feature. And the dashboard is just all, there's not really a whole lot of detail on there. The whole top portion here lights up, which I doubt is proper to the real car. You do have kind of a wood grain texture for like the center stack and everything, but that's really where it ends in terms of detail. And there are a few buttons that are molded in there, but not really a whole lot aside from that. And the steering wheel looks okay at best, but it definitely looks too bulky in that center portion. It does not really seem to be the shape that you would see on the real Phantom, unfortunately. And there is a massive red button in the center of the center stack, because that does operate some more light features that I will show shortly. So yeah, really not a whole lot in terms of detail on the interior. It is quite toyish. Although I will say that for the door panels, Shazy does do a good job with those. The door panels are usually two-tone on the real Phantoms, and in this case, Shazy did do that. You have that pocket down there done in orange, then you have that pocket done in black and orange. And they actually do include the separately cast door handles as well, which do look well done, I would say, for what the model is priced at. So that's really it. You do get a full headliner. It's kind of hard to see, especially with this zoom, but you know, that's pretty much it in terms of the features that you see. Here's this umbrella too. Kind of get a better zoomed in shot of that, and then you just pull it out like that. Super cool. So there is very little fine detailing, but they do make up for that with all these different features that you see. So as I already said several times, this model does have many different light and sound functions. I'm going to close up all the doors. We'll put the umbrella back later. And underneath, you probably already saw, but there is a switch that operates the different lights and sounds. So you flip over the car, you see the switch there, and then it's set to off right now. And the center portion, if you flip it to just the center setting, you have the lights. Now, you're thinking, oh, look, I can barely see the lights. Well, we'll turn off my lights here, and you can get a better look at the lights on the car. So yeah, there's the lights on the Phantom. You do have the headlights, which light up very nicely in the LED fashion. The Spirit of Hextasy, which lights up in blue. It looks very, very cool. And you also have the light up taillights as well, which you see right there. Very cool. And there are various light features on the interior as well, which you can kind of already see right here. So you open up these doors like that, and you'll see that the dashboard, in fact, lights up. There's a picture of the Phantom, almost like a navigation screen in the center part. It's hard to see with this zoom. And then you do have the gauge cluster lit up on there as well. I forgot to mention that you do get pedals in the car, but they're done in kind of these really thick chrome pieces. They don't really look that accurate to the real car. But there's the light up dashboard, as you see right there. And in addition to that, the moonroof lights up with this Starry Night pattern, which is very cool. And it loops through different colors, which is like amazing. On the real Phantom, you could get that as an option, have like a fiber optic moonroof, or have the entire interior roof have these fiber optic lights in them that then form like, you know, constellations or pictures and whatnot. It's very cool, and I actually have no idea how Shazy managed to wire this portion, because as you saw, this does open and shut from the inside. So I don't know how they wired these lights and yet still had this function as an opening and closing moonroof. It's just awesome. We'll get an even better look at the lights. I'm going to turn off all the lights in the room, then you can actually see how bright the different lights are. So we're going to do that in 3, 2, 1. And there you go. It looks very fuzzy on camera here, but this is how bright it does look in kind of pitch darkness. The whole interior is lit up, and then you do have the working lights and the ornament, and then the working tail lights as well. Very, very cool. There really are not too many big scale cars that have all these different features that are not, you know, like remote control cars or plastic models. This is a full opening die-cast model that's also a pullback car and has all different light and sound functions. Next, we'll take a look at the sound functions that I keep talking about. All right, I got our lights back on. Let me turn on these other lights here, and then I'll show you next the different sound functions. So you saw on that switch there are 2 different settings, or 3, I guess, if you count the just off settings. So to turn everything off, you have to make sure it's on the off setting on the off setting. You have to make sure that the switch is flipped to off, and then you have just the center portion for the lights. And then if you turn the switch to the on setting right there, the lights will be off, but that means that the sounds then will be on. So I'm going to show you all the different sounds next. The first sound you get is when you push the front suspension down. Definitely not how a real-life Rolls-Royce Phantom would sound, but I appreciate them including a sound function on a model car like this. And it is very loud and, in my opinion, kind of obnoxious, but the fact that they have this in general is really cool, I think. And you also have sound functions when you open up different portions of the model. So when you open up the driver's door, it makes that sound. So that was the sound that the driver's side door, I guess, makes when it is opened. Now there is actually a second sound that you can make, and this can happen either when you open up the driver's door a second time, or if you open up the passenger door after closing the driver's door. It's kind of a weird like synchronization a little bit, but the point is that there's two different sounds for when you open up the front doors. There are no sounds when you open up the rear doors, but there are sounds for the front doors. And yeah, I'm not really a fan of that sound. It's very ear-piercing. But there's the two sounds that you get when you open up the doors. And then, of course, you count that other sound as the third sound. So super cool, I think. As obnoxious as the sounds, I think, are, it's just really cool that they're in this model to begin with. So we'll close up that door. And then you also do have the different light functions and sound functions for the interior as well. So we're going to open up the driver's door and then have the first sound turn on, I guess. Once again, we'll use a suction cup. I would not open it up by the mirrors like I keep doing because they might snap off. So don't follow what I'm doing. Use the suction cup. And you see how the interior lights also light up when those sounds take place. In addition to these three distinct sounds for the exterior, you also have a sound for the interior, and that is just the horn. You just push the steering wheel like that. Like that. And then you have the horn function. Really cool, I think. And the steering wheel does not actually move with the front wheels. I did forget to mention that. They probably can't have that happen because there is the sound, I guess, circuit board behind the steering wheel. So you wouldn't be able to turn the steering wheel without messing up like the circuit board or like the wiring that they have in there. But yeah, that's your horn right there. And then lastly, for the light and sound functions, you have this red button in the center stack there. If you push that, like that, you do have the flashing lights. Like it's a cop car almost. Even though it's not a cop car, but still cool. And the lights will actually stay flashing like this until you push the button once again. So remember to push the button to turn off the lights, like that. And there you have it. There's all the different interesting, but some, there you go. Yeah, you have to be careful because the slightest movement of the doors will trigger the sounds. The back doors, that's not the case. So that's why you have the on and off switch, because you can turn all that stuff off permanently if you would like to. So we'll turn that off. There we go. Okay, so that was a lot to kind of take in for the model just because it had so many, different features and whatnot. And there are other similar 1/20th to 1/18th scale models out there that have all these different light functions, sound functions, all opening doors that are, of course, quite toyish, but at the same time, really, really cool and definitely talking points for those of you who do collect larger scale models like these. So if you want to add a cheap, big scale Rolls-Royce to your diecast collection, this is the way to go. And if you even ignore all the extra features like those lights and the sounds and, the opening gas cap and the moonroof and whatnot, it is still, I think, a decent model for the price. It definitely is toyish. It's off scale. They should have called it maybe like 1/20th scale, but it's meant to be a toy. So you can't really criticize them too much for having a lack of fine detailing in certain areas of the car, especially when you look at like the interior and the engine and whatnot. So if you can find this model for a good price, I would say definitely get it. It's a unique model, and I think it would look good in any collection of big scale models. And you may even want to start collecting models that make lights and sounds and all that fun stuff, because I certainly want to now after getting both this and the Lexus. So yeah, really cool. I know that was kind of a longer video, but there was a lot to really, show with this model. So feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on it. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.